This should not have worked. A police interrogation technique so effective that it makes innocent people confess to crimes they never committed. Not sometimes, regularly. And for decades, law enforcement treated it as the gold standard, the thing that they taught new detectives in a classroom with a certificate at the end. It's called the Reid Technique, and since the 1950s, it's been the most widely taught interrogation method in North America. Hundreds of thousands of officers have been trained in it, and it is a problem, a big one. Here's how it works. The Reid Technique has 3 phases, and to understand why innocent people break, you have to understand all 3. Phase 1 is the interview. They call this the behavioral analysis section. Before any accusation, investigators sit you down and ask non-threatening questions, and while you answer, they're not really listening to the words that you speak. They're watching your body. Are you fidgeting? Avoiding eye contact? Crossing your arms? Looking down and to the left? The theory is that deception leaks through body language. If the investigator decides you're being deceptive, you move on to phase 2. And that's the first crack in the whole thing. Decades of research show that humans, including trained detectives, are barely better than a coin flip at detecting lies from your body language. So, the entire technique can be aimed at the wrong person from the very first minute, with total confidence. Phase 2 is the interrogation itself, and this is where it gets aggressive. The interrogator stops asking and starts telling. They present your guilt as an established fact. They don't say, "Did you do this?" They say, "We know you did this, and here's why." And then they present evidence, sometimes real, sometimes completely fabricated, because in the United States, thanks to a 1969 Supreme Court case, police are legally allowed to lie to you during an investigation. They can say your fingerprints were found at the scene when they weren't. They can say an accomplice already named you when nobody has. They can say that there's DNA, there's video, there's a witness, when none of it exists. The entire goal is to make you feel that denial is pointless, that the walls are closing in, and that cooperating is the only move left. Phase 3 is the minimization, and this is the trap closing. Once you start to waver, the interrogator suddenly gets gentle. They offer you a way to feel okay about it. They say, "I understand why you did it. Anyone in your position might have done the same. Maybe it was just an accident. It's not like you planned it. Or, if you just tell us what happened, we can all go home." They're not offering forgiveness anymore. They're offering a story, an escape hatch where confessing feels like the path of least resistance and the way to make the pressure finally stop. And this is where innocent people break. Here's a number that should bother you. The average Reid-style interrogation lasts between 1 and 2 hours, but interrogations that produce false confessions average over 16 hours. 16 hours in a small room, being told with total certainty that you did something, being shown fake evidence, being denied food, water, and sleep, and being offered over and over the relief that you can just say it and it ends. Think about that from the inside. You've been in that room for 16 whole hours. You're exhausted, terrified, and your brain is foggy. An authority figure has been telling you with absolute confidence that you committed a crime, and that they can prove it. At some point, and this is just the part that people can't believe it until it happens to them, your own memory starts to bend. Maybe I was there, you might say. Maybe I blacked out. Maybe I did it and I just don't remember. Whatever actually happened gets lost in your memories. In fact, psychological research has shown that it's possible to implant fake memories in normal people in under an hour. Now, imagine being stuck in a room for 16 full hours and getting told over and over again that the second you confess to the quote-unquote truth, you can go leave. And this method has worked over and over again. The Innocence Project has found that false confessions played a role in roughly 29% of wrongful convictions later overturned by DNA evidence. Nearly 1 in 3 people proven innocent by hard science had sat in a room and told the police they did it. They confessed. They signed it. Some of them even gave detailed descriptions of how they supposedly committed the crime, details that, it turned out, the interrogators had fed them. The most famous example is the Central Park 5. In 1989, 5 teenagers, each between the ages of 14 and 16, were interrogated for 14 to 30 hours each over the assault of a jogger. All 5 of them confessed. All 5 of them were convicted. They each served between 6 and 13 years. And then, in 2002, a man named Matthias Reyes, who was already in prison for another crime, confessed, and his DNA matched the evidence. The 5 were exonerated, but they have already lost their teenage years to confessions they made as frightened children. And this wasn't the only case. Brendan Dassey, who was a teenager from the documentary Making a Murderer, was a 16-year-old with a low IQ. He was interrogated without a parent or a lawyer present. He told the investigators what they wanted to hear and seemed to think that he was going back to school that afternoon, but instead he went straight to prison. Another example was Norfolk 4. 4 Navy sailors who confessed to a rape and murder that DNA later tied to a single unrelated man. They confessed anyway under pressure, even contradicting each other and contradicting the physical evidence the entire time. So why does this keep working on the juries? Because a confession is the most powerful evidence there is. Jurors trust it more than fingerprints, more than eyewitnesses, almost more than anything. The logic feels airtight. Why on earth would someone admit to a crime they didn't commit? It seems impossible until you understand the psychology of the room. Now just consider the sleep deprivation for a minute. After 24 hours awake, your judgment and decision making are impaired to roughly the level of being legally drunk, a blood alcohol level of 0.1. Now stack on isolation, fear, an authority figure insisting you're guilty, fabricated evidence, and a constant offer of just confess and the pain stops. We wouldn't let someone sign a car loan in that state, but we let them sign their lives. So the question is, after all of these years, has anything changed? Well, some of it has. A growing number of states now require interrogations to be recorded from start to finish, so a jury can see the full 16 hours, not just the tidy 90-second confession at the end. And here's the detail that tells you how seriously this is being taken. In 2017, one of the largest interrogation training firms in the country, Wicklander Zalowski, publicly announced it would stop teaching the Reid Technique altogether, saying that it carried too high a risk of false confessions. That's the industry itself backing away. But the defenders still push back. Reid and Associates argue that it's an effective tool for getting truthful confessions from guilty people, and that the false confessions are rare exceptions. The critics' answer is brutal and simple. Any method that reliably produces false confessions, even occasionally, is broken because every single one means two things at once. An innocent person is in the cell, and a guilty person is still out there. The most unsettling part isn't that the false confessions happen. We've known they've happened for the longest time. For over 70 years, this has happened and nothing has changed at all. This should not have worked. A method that makes innocent people destroy their own lives by confessing to things that they never did. But it did work, for 70 years and counting.